Welcome to the second cabinet meeting of the night. I'm sure we will hopefully never see another night like that then. As over anyway with two cabinet meetings. So apologies for absence, anyone. We're all here. Excellent. Items of urgent business. Any items of urgent business? There's two items, but I'll mention them later in policy briefings and policy and budget announcements that day. No. Declarations of interest. Anyone? No, thank you. And I think you don't want to hear any more from the statement from the leader. I think on the same night, I'm not going to read the same statement out. So what I'll move on is to really, well, acting leader. Sorry, I must say acting leader. I must say acting leader until tomorrow night, if I win the vote. I will just make a short statement, and really it's about, again, openness, transparency and honesty. And mainly this is on the policy briefings and updates. I will give you an update, really. In the last couple of weeks, I'm making emergency decisions, and I don't think that the emergency decisions should always come to this cabinet or come as quick as possible to be released. I've made two quick decisions over the night during cabinet that I can talk about. If there is any decisions that I can't make due to commercial sensitivity or sensitivities, as quick as possible, I promise you they will bring here, and I can mention them as soon as practical or as available. That I will do that. The two at the moment that I had to make in the means during the last 2 weeks is the government's COVID relief fund and additional package. This package is worth £1.5 billion, and £7.3 million was given to Thurrock. There was a small amount. Businesses had to claim this money, make applications for the business rate relief. And only a small amount of the money was actually claimed by the applications. So I took a decision to release the rest of it instead of giving it back to the government, to send it straight to businesses in this time of need, so their business rates. So they don't have to apply. The money will be sent straight back to them. The properties are rateable value was under £100,000. They've got to be continuously occupied from 2021 to March 22. They must remain. Business remains in charge, and after any other exemptions, they are not eligible for relief in 2021, and they're not insolvent. If they've that, they will get their money sent straight back to them. The money that they need now, without applying, and they'll just see that on their business rates. The other item is a good news story. I know you're trying to do good news, but they will be bad news decisions as well coming here. But sadly, this is another good news story. Is the free household support grant? The household support grant we have £600,000 to be given out of 1.2 million left of the fund. And that we will be giving out an estimated to 8,000 children in Thurrock, and it will cover us all 5 weeks of holidays up to March. I had to make the decision quickly, because the half term was coming, and I wanted to get this money out under free school meals as quick as possible before this week. So that was my update. Is there any questions on them emergency decisions?
Only that I commend both decisions really, especially the second one. I know these funds have to be spent. If they're underspent, then I don't see any more worthy cause than the free school meals. It's well targeted and easy to implement. So I commend it.
On the money to go to businesses, I get the theory of having a rigorous process, applications, but with everything businesses going through, and particularly small businesses in the borough, the last thing we want is extra hoops. So the more money and support we can get to businesses is great to see within Thurrock, and needs to remain a focus over everything we can do to keep the borough thriving.
I completely agree, but I must warn Cabinet that I will be doing this with bad news ones as well. So if you can like all this ones, but there will be, I can promise you, in the next few months there will be some bad news ones coming here, and I will be reading them out the same.
Mr. Johnson. Thanks, Leader. Regarding the household support fund, I mean, 1.2 million, 600,000 of it going to the children of this borough to ensure they're well fed right through the school holidays. But that that will total about 8,000 children that will benefit from that. And I think that's it's great. I said thank you to the government, and I'll say thanks to you for rushing it through, so we got it through in this term. Thank you.
And it just shows actually some of the officers are still on, like, we are worried about the financial crisis of this council, but we're still actually doing the day job. And that's my point, and thank you for the officers to highlighting this, otherwise the government would be clawing that back, and it was very helpful, the senior officers, to reply that to me.
Just a quick thank you, especially on this COVID additional relief fund, because I know so many small businesses, when filling up these applications form, they really feel it's very, very difficult. I think this will really help them, so thank you.
Yes, it's a large amount of money, and I think it's, I think whatever the Cabinet setting up the application process, but it's always easier if we can do the work for them, send the money, and hopefully the businesses will realise and the press can actually report that they get this bonus that they weren't expecting. Thank you. With that, can we move on to petitions from members of the public?
No petitions received, Councillor.
Yeah. Questions from non-executive members?
No questions.
Right. Matters referred to Cabinet for consideration of overview and scrutiny committees?
No, none tonight.
And so we move now to updates on council borrowing.
Thank you, Acting Leader. I'm not going to read every single line of this report, but this provides us with a summary of the impact of the recent intervention by government on the council's approach to accessing loan finance. As we know, from 2010 onwards, the council has largely funded capital programme and the investment strategy through inter-authority borrowing market. However, since then, that market has contracted significantly, and we've had to go and seek other methods of financing our debt. So, working with the commissioners, we have had to assess the financial requirements up to the end of March 23, and that confirmed that we needed a total of £836 million of short-term funding. That was required to meet the forthcoming cash flow requirements, including replacing existing loans from counterparties in the inter-authority market. Those total £687.5 million, with the replacement of existing PWLB loans representing the balance. £177.5 million has been repaid as of the 4th of October 2022. Now, if you turn to page 8 on the agenda, there you'll see the schedule. These are all short-term loans. They're taken out on a weekly basis, and the graph and chart on page 8 will show you basically the schedule at which these loans will be coming out. What this does do is ensure that we keep our obligations and pay our debts to the authorities that we did borrow money from, so it saves them from getting into any difficulties, and it keeps us above board and ticking along for the time being until we can come to a more permanent solution. I'll leave that one there for the time being and open for questions.
Yes, and I just point out, I'm going to repeat again, openness and transparency. Like in the previous iterations, this mostly would never have may not have seen light to members, and I think that's an important issue that we're trying to be good and bad, and it's very big numbers and very big interest rates. And you heard a report earlier from the acting 151 officer that how serious this is and the costs of it. But I think it's the right to actually show people what the situation is. It's right we should be doing this, and I thought it was good to come to Cabinet and good to go to overview and scrutiny as quick as possible once it was approved. I like the weekly loans idea, so that reduces the interest that we need to do. We were doing monthly borrowing. I know it was really hard to keep the Treasury team, and I know it's even harder now. We have to do this weekly, but getting this in was hard work to get this schedule, and I think the 151 officer for the hard work and his team to get this to this stage and get this agreement with DLUG, get this agreement with the commissioners, get it agreed with us as members. But it got there, and we managed to get it into last week, and then obviously published it as quick as possible. And I think we can see that, and it gives us this time to re-evaluate, see what we can do, and wait for the best value and wait for the recovery board to actually do its work. Any other questions from any? comments?
Just, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you know, during this process, there's no, you know, place for political expediency, and I think this report demonstrates a commitment to that. So, yeah, well done.
Yes, it's not good reading. It reads horrendously. There's a lot of money and a lot of money in short terms, but I think we can see that we're trying the best we can by borrowing weekly to actually reduce the interest rates and minimise the interest costs. And when we come, hopefully this gives us that time to actually sort our finances out, and hopefully we can come to some agreement and get and see a future for the borough. Thank you. So the recommendations and comments. Do we agree the recommendations? And I'm not going to read them out, but we agree. Thank you very much. And then I will close this. Before I close this meeting, there was some other reports, but they weren't ready in time, and we want to make sure, again, as you say, if they're not ready, not approved by everyone, we're not going to take them. And I think that this is why it's a short reports here, but we will be more reports in November. But we've got to get reports right instead of just agreeing things that are not appropriate. So thank you very much, and I'll close this meeting.